A waterworks provides the water supply for public use. This may sound like a function without much glamour, but Philadelphia's Fairmount Waterworks performed its utilitarian job and was a work of beauty and tourist attraction as well. In the 1790s, yellow fever outbreaks occurred in Philadelphia. On a single day in October 1793, the death toll from the yellow fever virus was 100. By the time the outbreak ended, 5,000 Philadelphians had turned yellow and died. It was believed at the time that yellow fever was caused by unclean water from the city's wells. It would be much later before the discovery that the virus is spread by mosquitoes. At the time, Philadelphia was the largest city in America. City leaders decided that Philadelphia itself was responsible for storing and distributing clean water for the population. The first water system, designed by engineer Benjamin Latrobe, used 2 steam engines to pump water from the Schuylkill River through wood pipes up to 2 wooden storage tanks upstairs in a building on Center Square, the spot where City Hall now stands. From those tanks, the water flowed by gravity into wood water mains. The mains carried the water to places in the city, which at the time occupied only the area between Center Square and the Delaware River. Graff designed the Fairmount Waterworks in 1812, and the construction of his original design lasted from 1812 to 1815. A large reservoir was built on top of Fairmount, a flat-topped rocky hill that was the highest point in the city, where the Philadelphia Museum of Art now stands. But this water system had big problems. The 2 storage tanks held a total of only 57,000 gallons, and the 2 steam engines running the pump were not reliable. If one engine stopped working, the remaining engine was not strong enough to run the pump, and the water would not reach their storage tanks. An engine house was built between the Schuylkill River and the reservoir. It contained 2 steam engines that pumped the water from the Schuylkill more than 90 feet up to the reservoir. From the reservoir, wood pipes made from hollowed-out tree trunks carried water to customers and public hydrants in the city. Graff designed the piping system as well. The engine house looked like a country mansion and was attractive as well as operational, and was appropriate for an important and growing city. As with Latrobe's earlier water system, the 2 steam engines were not reliable or cheap. It took lots of coal to run the steam engines and men working shifts to keep the engines fired. The steam engines would break down and have to be repaired. A boiler exploded in 1818 and another in 1821. The watering committee wanted a better and safer way to get the water up to the reservoir. Graff was asked to design improvements. The solution he came up with was very smart and led to the best times for the waterworks. It would use an ancient method to replace the newfangled and expensive steam engines with their exploding boilers. The river itself would provide power to run the pumps. Starting in 1819, a dam was built across the river. At the time it was built, it was the longest dam in the world, at 1,712 feet long, and created a 6-mile-long lake behind it. The dam directed most of the river water into a new channel cut into the bank to send the water through the water wheels that were lined up in a new mill house north of the original engine house. The flow of the river water turned the water wheels and kept the pumps running without requiring fuel and men to shovel coal for the steam engines. There were no boilers. The 8 water wheels provided a very reliable source of power and could pump up to 2 million gallons of water per day. The pumps would still function even if one of the water wheels had to be stopped for repairs. The operating expenses were very small and the city started making a lot of money. Philadelphia used some of the new money to buy Lemon Hill and other country estates along the Schuylkill to keep the land from being used to build factories. This was done to help keep the river water clean. The combined country estates later became Fairmount Park. Again, the city created something special thanks to the waterworks. The waterworks was not only interesting because of its innovative engineering, the buildings were attractive and stylish, and people liked them very much. Anyone who visited the city would not want to skip the waterworks. It looked more like a mansion in a park instead of a bunch of pumps in a room. The mill house buildings had a stylish classical design. This design appealed to people because in the early 1800s, Greek architecture was used for public buildings in America. These etchings were widely circulated, and by 1820, these designs could be seen on houses and important public buildings like the Capitol and the Washington Monument. To complement the waterworks buildings like the mill house and the spillway overlook, pictured here, the grounds of the waterworks offered statues and fountains so that the site felt more like a park than a public utility. The style of the waterworks buildings was a revival of Greek and Roman architecture, which was very popular at this time it was constructed. The composition of the waterworks was very attractive on the banks of the river. This etching by Piranesi shows the remains of an old temple. It is similar to the design of the Fairmount waterworks. This is a painting of the Acropolis, a great ancient complex at the top of a hill in Athens, Greece. It was the inspiration for the waterworks and also the Philadelphia Museum of Art. By the 1840s, the waterworks was a major attraction. Sculptures, fountains, and gazebos added to the area. For the average person, as well as for those interested in technology, the waterworks was a unique place. The turning of the massive water wheels, the action of the powerful pumps, and the reservoirs containing the city's water supply made it different from other garden spots and made the visit special. The engine house was used for the Philadelphia Aquarium. That closed in 1962, and an indoor public swimming pool, the Kelly Natatorium, was built. The pool still exists, but closed in 1973. A project to restore the engine house later begun, but a huge fire took place, which entirely damaged the recently restored space. The fire was on January 1st, 2002 at 10 a.m. and took about 2.5 hours to put out. It put a huge damper on plans for the future use of the building. Once the fire was all cleared up, they decided to make the waterworks a venue for the Cascafi event group. They have had many venues they host. The waterworks is one of them. Starting about 12 years ago, they have held beautiful weddings in the outdoor building with one of the prettiest views in the city. They also host all kinds of ballrooms and big party venues. After all this, the waterworks opened a lounge and restaurant in late 2004. A man named Michael Karloutzis won a lease for $120,000 a year from the FPA, the Fairmount Park Commission, to run the restaurant. The Philadelphia Fairmount Waterworks is so much more than meets the eye. It was a huge part of our city's history.